What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Blab. I appreciate you stopping by. Without further ado, let's blab. All right, so we're going to be speaking a little bit about 151, the different products, where I see the future, what they're currently at, what's going on. I do believe that the 151 booster pack is possibly the most printed pack of cards in Pokemon history, meaning they printed this individual product, this booster pack the most. However, I still am pretty bullish on the product long term. People say that they're just bullish on any Pokemon set long term. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Buying into Destined Rivals at $250, $300 right now, probably not the best move. Could it be a $500 box in 2 or 3 or 4 years? Sure. Anyway, before I start rambling, we're looking at a $116 box. Just kind of up and down the last 6 months. Definitely crashing over the last month or so here. I do think this is a good pickup. I think that a lot of naysayers believe that this is, a hard to ship product and that this is, simply for rip and shippers and all of that. I think that a product that's made for rip and shippers is being ripped through. So I think that's one, an upside there. Two, the idea that you can't ship this product is kind of ridiculous. If you put in just a couple of minutes of work, like let's say you have 10 or 12 of these, I don't know, when you sell them, you only do 4 at a time. You get a box that fits, you charge the buyer $26 or $36. I mean, this is not hard stuff, guys. The idea that we can't invest in something because we can't ship it is kind of ridiculous. Let's move on. The booster bundle. I'm still seeing this in retail locations. I'm not saying I'm walking in and finding it on the shelf. I'm saying that, at least around me, every Tuesday and Thursday, Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, they're all stocking 151. Whether it be this product or other ancillary products, they're stocking 151, Prismatic Evolutions, Destined Rivals. They're stocking it every week. Every week, more products is coming out. $60, not bad. I don't think this is a bad buy now. Do I think it could come down a little bit more, throughout the rest of the summer? I do. I don't see this ever really going under $50 a box, though. So that leads us right into here, the booster bundle display. It is going for $800 on TCG Player. If we look at the data, $798, $798, $798, $796. So this is going for $800 on TCG Player. That is almost $900 shipped. I will give you a hot tip. If you're buying any product for more than $500, buy it at a card show. The reason I say this is when you buy a $500 product at a card show, you're handing $500 even over to the buyer or the seller, right? It is not a difficult concept to understand that the seller is actually responsible to pay quote-unquote taxes to the government from the sale, right? So as a buyer, you're not doing anything wrong giving them their asking price or whatever price you negotiate for. If this is a $700 box, $800 box, let's say you get it for $750 at an event, you're giving $750 even over, and let's call it $1,000 to make it even easy, right? If you give the buyer or the seller $1,000, they're responsible to give that, say 7% or $70 to the government, whatever. I just think the idea of paying 5 to 10% tax on high ticket items is a goofy goober move. Yeah, so that's a little pokey blab right there, but buy these high ticket items at card shows, or honestly, frankly, some LGS stores just take cash. You're not responsible for them paying taxes. If they do or they don't, if they pay a lower amount than they're supposed, that's not none of your concern, right? So find somebody that is taking cash even, a reputable source, and do that in person rather than pay hundreds of dollars in your whatever state you're in tax. Okay, let's continue. The 151 Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box, I do have to blab real quick about this too. Yes, 151 did get me back into Pokemon. Yes, I've only been here for a year plus in the current new market. Yes, you can still study trends and concepts from previous years and come to an understanding only being in the hobby for 12, 18 months. Just because someone was in it earlier and might have gotten to go through the markets technically doesn't really necessarily give them a greater understanding. I think in general it might, but if you're out here even in your first couple of months and you're actually on TCG Player and you're listening to different YouTubers and you are studying trends and not getting hyper shilled by micro businesses that get half a pallet and stuff is limited, those guys, if you listen to some real good information, you can actually understand trends. Anyway, I was at a card show about a year ago, so this was like $120 to like $130, and I was just walking by tables asking for 151 ETBs. I didn't even know what a Pokemon Center ETB was, right? So the seller had it for like $150, and I just kind of said it how it was. I was like, why are you like, what's the regular trainer? Like this was at like $60 to $70. So I was like, why are you at like double market? And he was like, oh, this is like a Pokemon Center one. And I was like, all right, whatever. Didn't even think about it, right? Obviously, as I've come to know, this is the most exclusive item you can get, blah, 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 blah. We got to get the prismatic one at $300 a box, or we're never going to get it in. That's ridiculous. However, this is the one of the lessons I learned, right? The box itself, the Pokemon Center ETB, for 151 is the collectible, right? They're probably not going to release any more of these. Obviously, Pokemon can do whatever the hell they want, but they're probably not going to release any more of these, and these aren't getting opened up, right? Like 11 packs of 151 at $10 a pack is like $110. Even the promo itself with the stamp, and by the way, the stamp is totally overrated. I mean, you could just get a random card with like an Obsidian Flame stamp that looks better. Anyway, that's like a $150 card. So you're looking at like less than $300 worth of value. But the ETB from Pokemon Center itself is the collectible. These are not being opened. These are being put either in storage, or they're being put on someone's mantle, or their desk, whatever. But just learning that lesson pretty early. I just jumped back into it. Maybe 18 months ago. So I just learning lessons along the way. $500 a box, yes, pretty expensive. Will this be $1,000 a box? Sometime next year, probably, in my opinion. The regular Elite Trainer box, I don't know, $250 for this shipped. I'd rather get one of these than two of these, and it's not really close. However, does this eventually become like a $500, $600, $700 ETB, $1,000 ETB in a few years? Probably. But who knows? Like, does Pokemon break their trend and they're just like, we're going to print 151 for a decade? Things like that can happen, right? So it's all speculation. But again, I'd rather one of these than two of these. Moving forward, I think it was just, the binder collection. It isn't, $125 to $150 binder collection is pretty pricey. The Black Bolt pre-release binder is like $60. Usually pre-release is pretty high. So this still, being up there, given the massive amounts of Blooming Waters we've got and things like that. Obviously Mew on the binder with all of the other 151 Pokemon. It's a cool looking binder. So about where I expect it to be. Will this also probably be more expensive in the future? Yes. So this is your resident Hyper Bear. Telling you that even though they're reprinting this, they're still putting this in retail stores. They're still putting Blooming Waters in GameStop. They're still putting booster bundles in Best Buy. Even though they're doing that, I'm probably buying. Also, $500 plus, get it at a card show. From a reputable source, not, some random. Make sure, sealed product. You gotta get it from a reputable source, but to walk into a card shop and, they'll probably have this at like $900 because they're above market. And then you're paying, to pay $1,000 for this one. Just the market itself is $800. It's kind of crazy. What you do is you go to a card show, you find someone selling it for $750 and you offer them like $650. That's kind of a low ball. But, you try to get it for $700 cash, right? As opposed to $870 from TCG Player. That's enough blabbing for now. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.